Okay, so welcome back to another episode of, I would say, the Euro 2020 review show. And with me, we have Ahmed Faraaz again. We've got Wasim as well. And then our special guest for today is Mubeen Ahmed. He's part of the Sportycast stable, and he's actually the director of football for our fantasy league team. So welcome, Mubeen. It's nice to have you on board.
Thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on and looking forward to sharing, obviously, insights and knowledge and obviously discussing how the tournament's going to pan out for the 2021 Euros.
Yeah, definitely. I see you refer to it as Euro 2021. I'm still on Euro 2020, and I think it is a bit confusing because I had someone come back to me and ask me, is it not Euro 2021? And I was like, yeah, you could go with both because obviously it was postponed and it was from last year. But before we look ahead, we're just gonna look back first, and we're gonna take we're gonna take it to Ahmed Faraz to tell us a bit more about what happened last night between Spain and Sweden. So, AF, do you think this was a good result for Spain, or do you think it was 2 points dropped?
Definitely 2 points dropped. Like we said in the previous show, we don't think Luis Enrique knows his best 11. And last night showed that you had a striker in Alvaro Morata that looks out of sorts. You you had a midfield that you didn't know how they were going to gel. Sergio Busquets not being there was a huge loss. But the fact that they started Rodri with Koke, who's basically the same type of player, um, instead of somebody like Thiago Alcantara that can change the tempo of the game, that can keep things sticking. Um, it, it was quite confusing um, for like that team selection. You could see when Gerard Moreno came on, when Thiago came on, things started changing. Spain created more chances, but it was too little, too late. And yeah, I think Sweden played really well. Victor Lindelof from Manchester United, he got man of the match. And then their striker, Alexander Isak, he was a huge handful. We spoke about Pau Torres and Americ Laporte being that new centre back partnership, and he was causing them so much problems. He was fast-footed, skillful, strong. It looked like they didn't know how to deal with him at one point, and quite fortunate that we didn't let him score.
Yeah, I mean, some good points there, AF. And I think the biggest one for me is, like you mentioned, they weren't too sure of their starting 11. And a lot of people are saying that they probably got it wrong and Marino should have started. But at the end of the day, I think Morata and Gerard Marino had good chances and they just weren't clinical enough. If you look at the stats, Spain had a ridiculous amount of possession and were just unable to make it count. So, yeah, 2 points dropped. And I think it does make the group interesting, obviously, when you get results like this and it doesn't go according to plan. But it'll be interesting to see how Spain respond in their upcoming games. So we're gonna move on now to Group D, where England beat Croatia with a very solid performance. I was really impressed with their organization and the way they went about it because Croatia has a very strong midfield. Mubin, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, look, I think the beginning of every major tournament, whether it be a World Cup or a Euro, um, there's always talk about England. There's always potential that people speak about that we see week in, week out as avid followers of the Premier League. And this year is obviously no different. They have a good squad, a young squad. Um, I think for me and maybe most other people, the debate was obviously Sterling starting as well as Calvin Phillips. But both of them proved their worth, particularly Phillips with the outstanding season he had with Leeds, carrying that form through. Um, England started off well, and then Croatia obviously came in, started to gain a bit of momentum. I think the heat also played a big part, seeing that it was an afternoon game, that London heat, and it can be draining. And then obviously Sterling gets the goal, and England dominated the game for me. And even if you look at the stats, but something that was impressive for me is the fluidity that they played with. the passes. I mean, again, Phillips with a 94% pass rate, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, I think they gelled well. It's again, like I alluded to earlier, it's a team that I'm excited to watch for the rest of the tournament. It's my team, someone a team that I supported since
Yeah.
young because I watch English football. It's the reason why I chose England. So exciting stuff ahead for England. Um, they're spoiled for choice. I mean,
Yeah.
you got Grealish, you got Foden, you got Sterling, you got Rashford, you got Kane up front. I think the only touchy issue is still at the back. Mings was solid for me. Walker was a bit average. So the only issue is still at the back, but I think as the tournament progresses with confidence and them gaining and keeping momentum, I think they're a team to look out for with an outside chance of winning the tournament. Croatia, on the other hand, an aging squad from where they were at the 2018 final. Modric had an off day, but there's nothing really to write home about the from the Croatia perspective.
Yeah, I think with Croatia, that is a real issue where it's guys coming towards the end of their careers or the end of their
Yeah.
cycle at international football, and it does show. They're a bit tired, weary legs. But I think also with Croatia, there's that experience where if they do get a good run together, I think they could make a deep run within the tournament. But like you say, it's just they are 2 years on after that fantastic performance, and the cracks are starting to show. There was something interesting for me in team selection with Kieran Trippier filling in at left back, which with the other options England have, you didn't think they'd go with him at left back, but he did prove to be solid. And I mean, at the end of the day, when you win your first game 1-0, solid outing, Gareth Southgate looks fantastic, and we'll have to see if his team selections continue to bring them good results going forward. In Group D, we also had Scotland taking on Czech Republic, where there was a phenomenal goal from Patrick Schick, who I never heard of, to be honest, before this game and that goal. And yeah, it was just amazing. I felt Scotland had some buzz coming into the tournament, but two fantastic goals from Schick. And yeah, Scotland on the back foot, and now coming up against England and Croatia later on, we'll have to do a lot to go through. So that's Group D. For Group C, Wasim, what did you make of the game between the Netherlands and Ukraine? Because that was very entertaining.
Yeah, definitely my match of the tournament so far. I think it was very entertaining. Both teams started off in different ways. Holland started well, but they weren't taking the chances. And then Ukraine grew into the game and they created some good opportunities for themselves. But then second half, the Dutch upped their game and they made some changes and it seemed to work for them at that point where they got 2 goals and I think they deserved it at that stage. But then they sort of switched off. They took off Daley Blind and they took off the left back. And all of a sudden, you've got half your defense has now changed. And Ukraine scored 1 goal. It's a great goal. And all of a sudden, they gained confidence. They got a second goal. And out of nowhere, it was 2-2. So I think Ukraine then should have then tried to steady the game and just try and see off the Dutch and try and get the draw and go home and go home with 1 point. But what they did is they sort of kept the game open, and that allowed Holland to then create another chance or two, and then they scored. For me, it was the Dutch showed that they've got a good young team, but they also have frailties, as the defense showed, conceding 2 goals in like 5 minutes. So it showed both sides of the game, and they're going to be an interesting team to watch because they've got exciting players, but as they showed, they have weaknesses as well. But it was an entertaining game, and I really enjoyed it. And I think if both teams play with that sort of spirit, it's going to make them fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in tournaments like this, you want to see goals where often you find in tournaments you see teams play very tight, and they don't want to lose rather than going out and looking to win, which I thought the Dutch did really well. They were playing with a great fluidity and they were making chances, and just unfortunately, like you said, they just weren't clinical enough. But yeah, it makes for entertaining football. As a neutral in that situation, I definitely can't complain. You made an interesting point about Daily Blind coming off, and I know Ahmed Faraz also mentioned that in our WhatsApp group when the game was going on. So, Ahmed Faraz, why do you think that was so important?
So the thing is with Daily Blind, he's had some health issues in the past year or so as well. Um, I think he had a heart scare about a year ago, and he had to be taken off the field. There was some concerns if he's going to be playing football again professionally or not. Um, and I think that contributes to him not fulfilling a full 90 every single game. So I think Frank de Boer is probably of the opinion that, okay, let's try to have him play 60 to 70 minutes every game, try to see it off, and then get somebody else in to like paper that crack like for the last 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Um, I don't think it's a good way to work things. If you want a solid base, if you want a good backline, you have to have somebody that's consistent over there. The defense is your rock. It's you 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 need that wall in front of your goalkeeper. If you take one of those pieces away, the goalkeeper's confidence drops as well. And I think that's kind of what happened with the Netherlands game. The fact that, like Wasim said, you took off half your defense, it just doesn't give the goalkeeper much confidence, and it gives the opposition an open. So you can see, okay, I'm going to be attacking on the left side now. These are two brand new players that's on the pitch, and they need to adapt to the pace of the game. Yeah, so I don't think that Frank de Boer made the right decisions there. If you want to change somebody like Daily Blind, then rather start him in midfield because he's more than capable to play there, and have somebody that's going to play a full 90 in central defense.
Yeah, I think that that's something that you don't see often, like a tactical substitution. Well, I say tactical loosely, but you generally don't see your centre backs coming off. And when you look at your defensive unit, your goalkeeper and your defenders, there's generally one leader. And for the Dutch, it's probably Daley Blind who leads. You know, the defense is in charge of a lot of things within that. And when you take that guy off, communication does get affected, and then obviously people, you know, you might pick up the wrong person, you might press when you're not supposed to, and so on. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the Dutch do a bit later on, especially as Frank de Boer's managerial career has been questionable thus far. And again, he's just adding to it with a substitution like that. So definitely a team to watch. As we move on, just a couple of points. We'll just touch on Group B and Group A quickly. With Group B, we saw Belgium start off strong with a 3-0 victory against Russia. I was surprised that they were that strong coming out the gate, especially with players like Eden Hazard not being fully fit and not starting. But the Belgians look really good, and I think Lukaku's hungry after winning Serie A with Inter to come through and do really well at the Euros. And then in Group A, my team, Italy, also started off really well by beating Turkey, which was also quite surprising for me, as I thought the Turks would be, you know, would be quite strong coming into this tournament. But they just defended so deep, and I couldn't understand what their game plan was. But I do think the Turks will come back and they'll still qualify. But yeah, Italy and Belgium look really good to start off the tournament. So a big story, and AFU mentioned Daley Blind had some cardiac issues before, and that ties in with the biggest story so far for me. And I mean, there's been lots of stories in the Euros, and it's barely a week in. There's been injuries, there's been surprise results, wonder goals, etc. And I think the biggest thing is what happened with Christian Eriksen, you know, when he collapsed just before halftime. And I wasn't watching that game live. So if any of you can just jump in there, what was it like to see that happen in real time? Because I only saw replays.
Yeah, so I think I'll go first with this one. Um, I just saw, I can't remember who it was that took the line out, and they threw it to Christian Eriksen, and instead of him controlling the ball, he just collapsed onto the ball. And then it looked like he was having a seizure, but I'm not quite sure because the camera panned away very quickly. And then you just saw like the players calling the referee. referee signal to the bench to call the medics. It just happened so fast, and yeah, it was insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
credit to the support staff, to the players, to the
Yeah,
referee as well. I think they did really well, because a situation like that, every second counts, and the fact that they did it so well, and so quickly, to stabilize him, to get the necessary done, and to save his life. Because if anything else had to take longer, or go wrong, that could have been the end of his life. So I was driving when I read the message of what happened. I was I was really shaken, because for any football fan, I mean, we've watched lots of football over the years, and Ericsson played a lot in the Premier League and stuff. So um, you sense of you get that sense of you develop a relationship with those players that you see so often, even though it's from far. So it was shocking, but I'm so glad that he is okay, and he sent a message today to say that he's stable and he wishes Denmark well.
Yeah, Mubeen.
look, also I don't want to say I was fortunate enough to see it live, but it's obviously scary. I initially thought maybe a second after it fouls, like, look, why is he acting? We always say soccer players are, they touch and they fall. You touch them and they fall down. But immediately when I saw Kia signal for the medics, it just flashbacks of again Fabrice Muamba incident not too long ago, and also reading the reports. That Kia played a major part in obviously turning him on his side and moving his tongue out of his airway. And also, I think lots of people are giving kudos to Anthony Taylor for stopping the game basically instantly. I think it took him 5 seconds so that the medics could rush across. So again, like Wasim said, that split-second decisions were life-saving in his case. It was very frightening because I could see through the legs of the players that they were administering a CPR. So when I saw that, my initial thoughts, look, this guy is gone. But again, the speediness of all the role players obviously played a crucial part in him being alive. The only thing I was a bit disappointed in is that the guys resumed the game. Obviously, there were meetings held, and again, reports that came out said that he FaceTimed with the team once he was stabilized and encouraged them to continue the game. But personally, I think it shouldn't have happened. Given the state the players were in, both sets of players, the Finnish and the Danish. I think the game could have been played on another day. So that was a bit disappointing for me on my side.
Yeah, I think with that, unfortunately, all these details are coming out now, and at the time we don't know exactly what went down. But from the reports, it basically says that they were given two options of how they want to resume the game, and if you're only giving people two options, they're going to choose the one that is the least, you know, the one that affects them the least. Even though it was two bad options, they still had to choose one. Where I think one of the articles I read, or somebody high up should have just taken that decision away from them. If it was the manager or the chairman of the Danish FA or the tournament organizers, and just say, you know what, we're not going to put anyone in this position. The game is just postponed. We'll pick it up again at a later stage. Because I mean, I can't even imagine how it must be to actually go out on the field again after you didn't know if you were going to lose someone, man. And I think that was also a part that I just didn't understand. Like, how could that stay on live TV? You could literally be watching someone die, and the cameras just kept rolling, and they even cut to his wife, which I thought was just bad taste. And I don't understand who makes those decisions, man. It's like extremely disappointing to look at people when they're at their lowest, and keep it on TV. And you get other things, like I think it was in the Champions League final recently, where there was someone who ran onto the field, and they quickly cut the feed. In cricket, in any other sport, as soon as a streaker comes on, they cut the feed immediately because they don't want to give that person airtime. But here you got somebody who's fighting for his life, and it stays on TV. And I actually heard, it was Ian Wright who said it's probably he feels because we so used to reality TV, that these things are things that people want to see, or they just used to seeing, which yeah, it just doesn't sit well with me. And I think the broadcasters really should have done a better job. But I'm glad that he's on the mend, and hopefully, at the end of the day, soccer it is, or football is just a game. But let's hope that he can come back, because he's very talented, and I still think he had a lot to offer the game. So yeah, let's move on, guys, to the group of death, which kicks off tonight. We have two games: Hungary take on Portugal, and France take on Germany. So we're gonna get started with just some predictions. Wasim, we'll go with you first. How do you see the two games playing out tonight?
So for tonight's game, I've played Super Brew, so I'm going to go according to what I chose there. I think Portugal, they're just too strong. Hungary they'll show some spirit, but I feel eventually they'll be broken down. So I'm going with 3-0 to Portugal. And then in the big game, France versus Germany, I think that's going to be a tight affair, because Germany are always a good side at big tournaments. Okay, we take 2018 World Cup maybe aside, but it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to go for France. I feel they also have too much firepower. But those are my two predictions for tonight. But I'm looking forward to both games.
Yeah, it's gonna be crackers. And if I'm gonna come to you last, we're first gonna go to Mubeen. Mubeen, so in the last episode, Wasim, myself, and Ahmed Faraaz picked France to win the Euros. So on that, do you agree with that, or do you see another team winning the Euros? And then also, what's your prediction for tonight's games?
Look, France are definitely the powerhouse for me for this tournament, given the talent and the players in the squad. But I'm true and loyal um, to my club, Manchester United, and I'm true and loyal to my national team, not by birth, but obviously by supporting England. So again, like I said earlier, with the amount of talent and potential in the English team right now, I'm going to say England are my team for this Euros. Um, and then for the predictions tonight, I think France just has a bit too much for the German team in terms of class. So I'm going to go 2-1 to France. And then Portugal, Hungary, I'll probably say 2-0 to Portugal. Um, Given that they've got a decent squad with the likes of Ronaldo still being in there, playing some good football, Bruno Fernandes. You got some decent players in that
Yeah.
Portuguese team. So 2-0 to Portugal over Hungary.
Yeah, Portugal is strong, and I mean they should beat Hungary, but yeah, you never know. I'm hoping for a surprise there. I think there might be a draw on the cards there, but who knows? But anyway, before we get that from my side, my predictions, Wasim, Ahmed Faraz, we picked France. Now we picked France before all these media leaks about you know things happening in the camp, and Giroud and Benzema going at it, and Mbappe on someone on team Benzema, and other players are siding with Giroud. If what's happening in the French camp, and are we going to see another meltdown like we saw in the World Cup, which was in South Africa?
Yeah, no, it's quite concerning. So there's definitely that divide that's happening in the camp at the moment. Team Giroud, team Benzema. It seems like Benzema has the sort of influence on some of the players, especially Kylian Mbappe. They've formed this sort of friendship, and yeah, it seems like that rivalry between Giroud and Benzema is now festering to the rest of the squad. And yeah, I don't know if you watched the conference. I think it was 2 days ago, and Giroud was actually criticizing some of his teammates. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's much harmony over in the France squad at the moment.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because Giroud has done really well in international football, and Benzema, obviously, his form has been phenomenal in the past year or so. And I mean, on merit, he's in the squad, but maybe Deschamps is going to look back at this and think, why did he bring a guy back who was out for 5.5 years, without considering the effect it could have? or maybe it's a master stroke and they bring out the best in each other. I think we're just gonna have to wait and see until tonight how the game goes. So what are your predictions, AF?
So for the Portugal game, I think I'm going Portugal 2-1. I think Hungary will score a goal. And then I think for the France-Germany game, Germany's quite a robust team. So I think Germany will get the win tonight, 2-1 to Germany. France's pace might be a factor, but I think Germany's defense is quite solid. So yeah, I'm going with Germany for the win.
Yeah, interesting. So for me, I think Portugal will beat Hungary, a goal or by a goal to nil or 2-0. I think there'll be a set piece in the mix there somewhere. France, Germany, I actually see a draw coming up here because I think the Germans are going to be really good this tournament as a farewell to their manager, and also they've got a really good, exciting squad. And then the French, I mean, we're just gonna have to see what happens there. It's a lucky packet, and hopefully they manage to put everything together and perform in harmony, because it's sad to see when these personal battles come out and affect the team. So hopefully France can get it together, and I think they might start off slow with all this involved, but I think they will hit their stride as the tournament progresses. So yeah, it's been a good chat. Thank you guys. That's all we have time for today. So go check out our socials. We'll post everything up on YouTube. There'll be stuff on Instagram as well. And yeah, we'll catch you again for the next show, which will be around match day 3 in about 4 to 5 days. Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Thank
guys.
you.
Cheers.